Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you all for inviting me here. I would like to speak about RESQL program that can be applied by every or almost every school. This is a program for monitoring and preventing violence in school, different types of violence. Before I discuss the program, I will start by explaining how we came up with this idea. We prepared it together at our University of Social Psychology, and this is not true that we only did it in our team. First of all, we carried out qualitative and quantitative studies. We engaged students, and it took us a year and a half to design this program. Most recent studies show something that you probably are very well aware of. Professor Peżalski, in his presentation, introduced the subject, but I will speak about peer violence, a very specific type of cyber violence. It starts at school, in the classroom, in the courtyard, in the corridors, and then continues online. So I will not differentiate between offline and online violence or bullying, because in the context of this instrument, it is not really important to differentiate this. So as for the result of the recent studies, we can see how many students were subject to violence during the online education and before. So before the pandemic and during the pandemic. So how many people were subject to physical violence, where they were excluded, ignored, and we will see how it compared from the time before the pandemic and during the pandemic. We will also look at the studies that were done back in 2019, and we can see that quite a significant number of students were subject to violence. Over 50% of students in primary schools felt certain forms of bullying, offline and online, gossiping, turning people against you, and other forms of aggression. So how many students actually notify such aggression? How many people want to say that they are either a victim or a witness? People do not want to feel that they are an informant, that they are telling on other students. And we can see how few students notify such aggression. They do not ask grown-ups, adults, for help, because they simply are not telling them about this. And just another bit of information: the most frequent events, gossiping, ridiculing, excluding from a peer group, and also turning other students against a victim, or ignoring. Ignoring is a very difficult form of violence, because it's very difficult to define it. It can happen offline and online. And ruining reputation. This is the most problematic form of violence from a victim's point of view, because someone whose reputation is ruined is left all alone, is isolated, has no friends, doesn't have a peer group, and is an easy target for continuing violence.
We also had a look at the percentage of pupils, how many of them say they don't like their class, 30% don't like going to school, 11% don't feel safe in a classroom, and 31% said that there is no single person they could depend on and count on within the class. And in our study, what was interesting is that kids 7 to 10 years old will notify and report on anything in 80% of situations. So someone was unfriendly, someone was unkind, someone punched him or her. Teachers will know. Then the more the worse. In the age bracket 11 to 13, 34% are inclined to report, and then as the age progresses, the reluctance to notify is increasing. Why? As Professor Pyżalski said, this norm of non-reporting, non-informing is growing with age. And well, when a 7-year-old or 8-year-old goes to his class teacher to notify, to report about something, he or she may hear that he should not be like a little informer, and it is only actual physical violence or material violence, such as theft, that will be most likely reported. Why do victims and long-term victims, so the adults who were subjected to various forms of bullying for 6 years or more, why would they not report and notify? Well, because the nature of violent conduct may be measured. If someone is just being ignored or is a victim of gossips and rumors, and they are simply feeling helpless and they don't think they have any say. Some teachers, when hearing about such incidents, say, well, come on, that's life at school. Or perhaps look at yourself, perhaps you provoke them to such behavior. So this is the fear of misunderstanding. There is also the sense of shame among teenage boys, because they don't want to present themselves as victims. And when you think about your own schools, which you attended or where you work, someone is excluded, someone is ignored, someone is bullied, and to whom I should turn? If this is the class teacher, perhaps the tutor, perhaps he or she would be the best person to talk to. But if we don't have such a relationship, you're at a loss. You don't know where to go to. And sometimes it is even viewed as business as usual. This is only normal. And sometimes, if someone thinks that he or she is all alone, being victimized, he will not be willing to speak out at all. And the witnesses, they don't know how to notify about what's going on, to whom. Also, we have an alpha that will persecute the weaker ones, and someone who is better or somewhere in the middle will try to stay quiet and toe the line. And the 4 rules should be taken into special account. That is, if someone notifies violence, acts of violence to you, it must be treated confidentially and on a purely anonymous basis. Also, the method of notification must be very simple and easily available, and clear-cut rules, what to report on, in what circumstances, and to whom. So there should be a very easy and accessible contact point to start the notification. And now we come to RESCO, and what kind of problems can be remedied or responded to by RESCO. For students, for pupils, it is not always obvious if what's going on is actually bullying or violence. Relationship violence is not seen as violence, like ignoring someone, public exclusion of someone. from classroom initiatives. This is not seen as violence, and then it is not reported on. And what to do? What to do? Should I talk to the one who is excluded? Perhaps it's dangerous. Should we stop the aggressor? Sometimes this is like an alpha in the class, and then you don't want to be at risk. So sometimes pupils have this instinct to stand up for the victim. The victim often do not want to notify of their problems, report their problems themselves, and teachers are sometimes not knowledgeable enough to provide an adequate response. This is not so much about the RESCL application, but about the whole system. Well, RESCL software is designed for a particular school that is in mind, and if they want to start cooperating with us, then we spend several weeks to roll out RESCL. This is like a student's application, so each and every student can download such an application on their smartphone. There is a panel for the teacher who will interfere, who will respond, and a student with a smartphone and the application may easily notify of what is going on. Anonymous report will be submitted to the teacher in charge of intervention, who will take over and will collect all the notifications and will plan a reaction. For large schools of 1,000 students, there will be 5 or 6 teachers in charge, or in smaller schools it will be less. So there is a dedicated panel for such a teacher in charge. We have a panel for the headmaster, and it helps to map the areas that are most likely to show some bullying or violence. And additionally, we have like a manual for teachers to help them realize in what circumstances violence may appear in a classroom, and to explain to pupils how to interpret their own conduct. And this is a very lengthy training to roll out the system. It's not enough to download an application. No, the whole school must look on this rollout with a friendly eye, otherwise it won't work. Student will notify about disconcerting situation. The teacher in charge will collect this notification. Director will monitor all the reaction that has been generated. And so this is the application, the intervention panel, and the manual. For instance, this is the class on various types of violence and bullying. As I was saying, it is not obvious for our students what is bullying and what is not, so it's worthwhile. So this is the application RESCL, and this will be the starting page, load page, like notify of violence, and we have boxes describing various types of violence: relationship, material, electronic, physical, sexual, and sometimes they do not know how to discern various activities. So we have this helpline, and we have an icon, notify violence, be it for a victim or a witness or a eyewitness, or I just want to talk. If a pupil is not fully certain if a given activity is violent or not violent, it is about bullying or not, and here we have relationship bullying, for instance, instigating the whole class to ignore the newcomer in the class, not to talk to him or her, electronic abuse or violence. And what you see, you have notified that 3 boys from your school keep bullying you. For instance, they disposed the whole of a trash bin into your rucksack yesterday at the Polish language class. And we have the teacher in charge responding to that. This is Radek Kaczan, one of the founders, who came up with the following response. This is what the teacher in charge can see. So on the left-hand side, he or she has managing panel for various students. It's Bartek, class 4B. It is that we know it, and we asked for details and particulars, which class, what particular student, and then we can embark on the intervention. And now coming to the close, this is the manual. The manual that falls into 11 lessons. 11 lessons on psychological mechanisms, the types of violence or bullying, and my favorite topic, the circle of violence at school. Some people think that if they are not aggressors themselves, if they are like non-affiliated members who just stand aside and laugh secretly, they are also complicit. And we had various lessons with various pupils, and most of them gave us their okay. And also tutors, class teachers said that those lessons prove the test because they appeal to particular psychological mechanism, but in the school context. As I was saying, a school rollout is like a multi-stage process, but what is very important is that the whole school community, teachers, and all the people in the canteen, everyone should be involved. And if you would like to read more about it, visit our rescue website. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for this presentation. And as I have promised you, it was very concrete, which was very much appreciated by the participants in their comments. They said this is a very eye-opening perspective, very, very concrete. So our participants are very happy with this presentation. We also have some very concrete questions. The first one being, how can it be implemented? How much does it cost? And who to ask? Well, the second question I am not able to answer, but you can still see our website, www.reschool.pl. There you have all the contact details for persons responsible. It is not very costly. The most costly thing is training, because we have training for responding teachers, for headmasters, for all the staff of the school. And then there is the cost of license, depending on the number of schools, but it is not very costly. However, I would not like to give you specific information. You have to go to the website, send us an email, and then you will receive a response with information. Another question, where to find out more about the studies you quoted. Well, do write an email to me, and I'll be more than happy to send all the references and literature on our website of our university, where we list all our projects. There is a whole list of publications by our authors. For example, when we studied why students do not notify violence, why they do not report it, we have a separate article about it. So the website of our university does include information about this, these studies. There is also a Facebook page, on a Facebook profile of Reschool, and you can find a lot of information there. You spoke about mediation as a possibility for resolving cyber violence. Someone said yes, but in mediation the aggressor may have more power or might dominate. Is mediation the answer? Well, my favorite answer is it depends. Well, the violence and bullying situations in schools can be very, very diverse. So when we train our responding teachers, we pay particular attention to them not starting the reaction before they really understand the situation. So mediation may be an option, but only if it is appropriate in a given situation. And sometimes you just need to talk with the aggressor, with the perpetrator. Sometimes you need to talk with the victim, or sometimes you need to intervene in the classroom. So there is never a simple answer, and I could not tell you whether mediation is a good solution for cyberbullying. It depends. Well, thank you very much. And if mediation is a question, then we could move on very smoothly to a technique which we call correction circles. And once we talk about this is going to be one of the topics of workshops organized as part of our conference. Workshops will take place on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You can still subscribe, register for different workshops on our website. I encourage you to do so. This is all for today, and I would like to see you all tomorrow at 10. And I also very strongly encourage you to watch the video. You received a link and a password by email. The link will be active until the end of the day tomorrow. We encourage you, however, to watch it tonight because it will be discussed tomorrow. It would make sense for you to see the film before the discussion so that you can take part in it. So thank you very much for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.